Are you ready?
Yeah, here we go.
All right, we're going to get up and we're going to eat and we're going to be biking by about 7:20. Then we're going to come home, put on your bathing suit. We're going to go supboard. On the board. Left to right. Then we're going to come home, take a shower, and I'm going to go buy you Mexican food.
July 4th, Chuck Vogel went for an early morning bike ride in Douglas County and never made it home.
So the hit and run happened just after 6 a.m. Sadly, that hit and run killed Edward Chuck Vogel, a husband and soon-to-be grandfather.
Chuck and I dated for about 5.5 years before we ever got married. And we did get married in El Paso, Texas. And we both had started college. I was in nursing school. He worked for JCPenney, and that's how we began. Chuck was my best friend. Yeah, you know, that soulmate, the person you were gonna grow old with, you looked forward to spending the rest of your life with. So that's the thing that made it such a great relationship.
Wait. Oh.
He had a big personality, was big on just doing the right thing. Well, he definitely had like a very distinct laugh. If you were in the other room and you heard laughter, you knew if Chuck was laughing. We were always riding bikes and doing things outdoors. It was really just like enjoying time together, doing things as a family. Wasn't really like always big things, you know, big productions or anything like that. It was just like going on a hike, going on a bike ride, going snowboarding together. Just those ways that you can spend time with your family. So the last conversation I had with my dad, I was driving home and we had been having some issues with our dog, and we were trying to make this decision as to whether or not like we should put him down or kind of like what the right thing to do was. And so yeah, I remember the last thing he ever said to me was just have a good one. You know, like, but it was with that tone of like, it's okay, like feel better, right? Like try and have a good day.
Oh my God.
Chuck was passionate about life in general. He had a passion for family and friends, for his community. He helped run the local food bank in Parker. He loved to bike. He loved golf.
This is my dad's bike repair shop that he built in the basement. Some of my earliest memories are with my dad looking in catalogs, picking out parts to build bikes. And it was hard to come down here and you know, see bikes and tools and just the memory of riding. Yeah, this is just one version of a life of us just connecting on cycling and, you know, the joy that it brought each of us.
Soon, he'll make similar memories with his soon-to-be-born daughter, Chuck's first grandchild.
Honestly, when my wife told me that she was pregnant, one of the first things I thought was like, well, when can I tell my dad? It's like, hey, let's go on a hike as soon as we get in. So we literally like drove from the airport, drove out, went on a hike. We said, hey, let's stop and take a photo. And so my wife set up the camera from afar and made him think that we were taking photos, but we were recording a video. And said, oh, I'm gonna take my jacket off and put it in my backpack. And then I pulled this sign out and I handed it, this little mini chalkboard, and I handed it to my dad. And I said, hey, just hold this. And he was just like, oh, okay. And he just starts to hold it. And my mom's like, well, what does that say? Hold on, like, what are you doing just holding this sign?
Oh,
He said, oh, You could just see like the pure surprise and joy that resulted of that moment, which was, you know, really special.
He probably left the house a little before 6:30 and left me a little note on the microwave, like he always does when he leaves somewhere before I get up.
Heart you. That means love you. Love you.
The morning of July 4th, 2019, I got a phone call that woke me up. The voice on the other end of the phone said to me, this is the emergency department at Parker Adventist Hospital, and could it be that your husband was out on a bike ride this morning? So I said yes, and I asked immediately, and I said, can you tell me? I said, is he conscious? Is he awake? You know, how is he? And they told me, I don't really have that information, but we needed to call and see if you could come to the emergency department. One of the emergency room doctors came to me and she asked me, she said, what have you been told, you know, about your husband's condition? Or what exactly do you know? And I said, well, I really don't know anything. I just was told he was hit by a car and that it was a hit and run.
I just sat down to eat breakfast and I saw my phone ring. And on the other end, she said, Brian, your dad was out riding his bike this morning and he was hit by a car.
That's one of the hardest calls you ever have to make. You have to be to the point and let them know, you know, that it's bad and that things are not good and that, you know, they're doing neurosurgery and that there's not been a lot of hope in the outcome.
You kind of get like tunnel vision a little bit, you know, and you just kind of start to kind of, I guess, like get hyper-focused on like, okay, what's being said to me? What do I need to pay attention to? Obviously, major head trauma was the overarching theme, and having so much swelling in the brain that it pushes down on the spinal column and can, you know, basically restrict or stop brain activity. And so the big objective for the morning was to find out how much swelling was there, has it gone down, and was there any sort of communication you know, between his brain and his body that remained.
Yeah. But miracles happen, and you just have to, you know, hope for the best, but prepare for the worst, as the saying goes.
The next morning, we waited for the doctors to make their rounds. When his physicians came in, they had a very straightforward conversation with us about there being 0% chance. You know, we went from 1% the night before to 0% chance.
Basically, what it came down to is just that Chuck's condition, as they described it, was just incompatible with life. And so at that point, you know, he reminded me that he's no longer there. You know, Chuck's really no longer there. I had had many moments with Chuck throughout that whole day that prepared me for that, and opportunities just to sit and hold his hand. And I told him, you know, that the kids were coming and just different things, hoping that he could hear me.
I told him that our dog had made progress, that he had, you know, the thing that we were talking about earlier and some of the issues he was having, that at least we were making some progress. You know, kind of gave him a status update based on the last conversation we had. But, you know, just ultimately that he'd done a great job preparing all of us. And now it was time for us to take over and, you know, for him to go. I mean, it's not really a matter of what you're ready for, it's what you're thrust into, right? I mean, I wasn't ready to have that conversation with him for another 30, 40 years if I didn't have to.
It's shock, you know, it's disbelief. You hear about it in the community and it always stops you in your tracks and you think, what a tragedy. But I'll say this, it has a whole different meaning now every time I hear it. It's like that punch all over again, you know, that it's happened to someone else now, and when is it going to stop? Close to the crash site, we have a ghost bike memorial, which is a white bike that signifies severe injury or death, you know, of a cyclist as a result of a crash. I felt that gut punch, you know, when I saw it, and that's because it represents my husband, and to remember that that bike represents a person.
The white bike now sits just down the street from where the crash happened. Vogel's family is now working with the nonprofit Bicycle Colorado to find ways to strengthen road safety laws and educate drivers.
I just want people to remember that he was a person. It's not just a bike or a memory. And that's the same thing if you're driving in your car and you see a cyclist or you see a pedestrian or any other kind of scooter, you know, child's play or whatever, to constantly be on the lookout, because they're always someone's mother or father or sister, brother, child, and they're people.
So when my dad was on life support, one of the nurses took an imprint of his hand for us. And once Charlie was old enough, we took an imprint of her hand and placed it on his so they could at least hold hands at some point. And on the back, there's a note the ICU staff wrote to our family, just expressing their condolences. The message that I would want anyone watching this to take away is you have a series of choices that you can make, and small choices can turn into big choices. And if we think about this individual, he had many choices throughout his life and throughout that evening that could have led him down a different path. And I would encourage more people to think strongly about the choices they make when they get behind the wheel of a vehicle, or when they choose to pick up that phone and respond to a text, or to consume alcohol, or to do drugs, and to really think about the ripple effect of those choices.
You have to understand that so many times one decision that you make doesn't always only affect you. It affects so many others. Oh, read your book. Yeah, that person. In loving memory, Chuck Vogel.
Mom?
Mom, where's Granddude? Is that your Granddude? Yeah, there's Granddude.
The driver who hit and killed him got the maximum sentence last week, 18 years in prison.
Chuck's widow, Terry Vogel, says that she's thankful the judge saw the seriousness of this crime.
His testimony was that of a person who really has no remorse. He testified in his statement that he thought he had hit a mailbox, that he didn't know he had hit a person, even though he had admitted it to other people. Yeah, I hit a guy on his bike. But in his statement, he stated that he thought he had hit a mailbox. The judge said to him specifically, "You have continued to make so many bad choices. You've been given many opportunities, so take advantage of the opportunities given to you if you do mess up, and continue on, because one bad decision may not define you, but it can." We made the decision early on as a family that we would do whatever it took to see a greater good come from this senseless death. It's why we're here today to talk about it. And if you are on our end of a bad situation or choices that weren't good, that's another time for us to step up and say, what decisions can we do going forward Do we just retreat and say, oh, this bad thing happened to us, it doesn't, you know, I just can't go on? No, we've decided that we are gonna try to live life with passion, like Chuck did, honor him, enjoy the things, and make the most of this life that we have. And if we can help keep others from going through what we've been through, then that's what we want to see happen.